Have you ever wanted to have your own radio show? Rebooting Liberty Radio Network currently has openings for live programs. For a very small fee, we will create a show intro, bumper music, and provide technical production for your hour-long show. Email producer@rebootingliberty.com for details. You can find us at live.rebootingliberty.com.
Welcome to Commonsense Coalition Talk Radio, where you'll find straight talk from people with good old common sense.
I trust your opinion.
And now, for your host, she's putting sense back into nonsense.
Absolute insanity.
Well, you can hear me on the radio. You want to turn me on, turn on your stereo. You can sing along while they're playing our song. How you done me wrong, baby, crank it up.
And now, your host, Beth Ann.
And I welcome you today to CSC Talk Radio. It's my honor, my privilege, and my pleasure to be here with you today. And I absolutely must put a shout out to the Marine Corps. Today is their birthday, 240 years old. And I'm just going to read a brief history, and I'm doing this in honor of all the Marines that are listening, and I know one of them happens to be my brother. On November the 10th, 1775, the Second Continental Congress meeting in Philadelphia passed a resolution stating that 2 battalions of Marines be raised for service as landing forces with the fleet. This resolution established the Continental Marines and marked the birth date of the United States Marine Corps. Serving on land and at sea, these first Marines distinguished themselves in a number of important operations, including their first amphibious raid into the Bahamas in March of 1776 under the command of Captain, later Major, Samuel Nicholas, the first commissioned officer in the Continental Marines. Nicholas remained the senior Marine officer throughout the American Revolution and is considered to be the first Marine commandant. The Treaty of Paris in April 1783 brought an end to the Revolutionary War, and as the last of the Navy's ships were sold, the Continental Navy and Marines went out of existence. And I thought as I read that today, they were at peace, so they sold their ships. Following the Revolutionary War, though, and the formal reestablished of the Marine Corps on July 11th of 1798, Marines saw action in the Quasi War with France, landed in Santo Domingo, and took part in many operations against the Barbary pirates along the shores of Tripoli. The Barbary pirates were causing much havoc and murdering and thieving and carrying on, and the President of the United States that day sent the Marines in to take care of it. The Barbary pirates happened to be Muslim. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Now, we've had a lot of things going on in the news, and since I'm in Missouri, I need to talk about the University of Missouri and the protests that went on. I have mixed emotions. I really do. I have mixed emotions about this because I think they had a right to protest, absolutely. I think there were things maybe not handled correctly. I don't think the way they handled it was correct. I think it's a bullying tactic. And I have an article here, because this is all over the news. I have an article here that's from the Daily Signal with the Heritage Foundation. And they're paralleling what happened yesterday here in Missouri, or the last couple of weeks here in Missouri at the University of Missouri. The MU Tigers, by the way, I am a fan. And what took place at the Yale University a week ago. And how these tactics tend to be more into bullying than they are of negotiating. Now, with Yale, they actually surrounded the gentleman that they were trying to get rid of, and it was quite intimidating. Well, they did the same with President Wolf. But he did resign yesterday, and I had a list, which I don't have it in here with me today. I had a list of the demands that they were making, and some of them were very reasonable, and some of them I thought were not. Now, I was talking with somebody last evening about how this transpired, and how the football players were going to boycott. They weren't going to play. And the fact that these are college students. And apparently I didn't go to college. But this person did. He said, I said, well, some of the things that happened, they were bad. They really were. They're racist and they were bad. They were anti-Semitic. They were anti-black. They were just bad. But he happened to say that they're college students. They do stupid stuff all the time. So the president of the college, he didn't react as he maybe should have, and that's why they went after him. He didn't do any of it. He just didn't react. Now, I had a little bit of a mixed feeling about, I kind of wanted to, they took a stand, and I'm very proud of them for that. They took a stand, the football players. But at the same time, they also signed a contract to play football. They signed a contract with an agreement they were going to do this and that in order to get their education. So I have some really mixed feelings about what took place here in Missouri, what took place in Yale, and what we're seeing happening across this nation. We are so divided. We're not going to get rid of prejudice. I wish that we could. I wish that we could get rid of the prejudice just like we thought we were done with war and sell the boats, sell the ships. Unfortunately, evil exists, and people are prejudiced, and it's not going to go away. And how can one person as a president of a college, a university the size of Missouri or Yale, how can they possibly stop it all? Well, they need to take actions. There's no doubt about it. But I think we should be in prayer for this nation. We are divided like I've never seen us divided before. And that breaks my heart. Because as I close the show every day and I say bring America home, I'm talking about all of us. All colors, all shapes, all sizes, all occupations, all genders, all religions. That's the beauty of being an American citizen, is that we are one. Get rid of the hyphens. We're one people. When we start separating ourselves, we're no longer a nation of American people. And I think we need to consider that. So let's be in prayer for what's going on in Columbia, the University of Missouri, and in Yale, and all the universities and the colleges across this nation. We've seen so much turmoil. It's time we get to work. Well, there will be a debate tonight with the GOP, and it's going to be with Fox Business. One thing that bothers me, now I've been searching a little bit online this morning for it, and they say, well, if you don't have cable or DirecTV, don't worry about it. You've got, or satellite, I should say. Don't worry about it. You can connect via the Internet, live streaming. Well, usually if people don't have the one, they don't have the other. Whatever happened to free TV, huh? This is kind of important. But apparently it's more about making money. Like so many things. But it bothers me that the mainstream medias aren't carrying this. And that it's always on an alternative, a paid-for TV. And, of course, like Trump was saying at the very beginning, the money they're going to make off of these debates, not him, not the candidates, the networks, it's astronomical. It's astronomical. And then they waste the time of the American people by doing what they did with CNBC. And I wasn't overly impressed with the Fox debate either. So we'll see how the business debate with Fox Business goes tonight with Cavuto. I'll report on it tomorrow. If you can listen, if you can watch, do that and join me tomorrow. We're going into a break. Your calls are welcome today at 877-895-5410. I want to talk about a little bit of the overreach of the president and the responsibility that goes with it with Congress. 877-895-5410, and we will be right back.
Did you know that whether you're making a phone call, texting a friend, or checking email, you can be making a difference for CSC Talk Radio? That's right. When you sign up for wireless service from our friends at Affinity 4, not only do you receive affordable rate plans with nationwide coverage on one of America's largest wireless networks, you'll also be supporting CSC Talk Radio through Affinity 4's Give Back program. Affinity 4 Wireless offers a variety of phones from leading manufacturers, and you can choose from individual and shared plans to meet your needs. And you can keep your same phone number. Call 1-800-311-2021 today and let the Affinity 4 customer service team help you select the best plan and phone for your needs. And remember, when you sign up for any of Affinity 4's products and services, a portion of the proceeds will be donated back to CSC Talk Radio. Don't wait. Call today, 1-800-311-2021, and ask about their current wireless promotions, including a free month of service and free phone offers. That's 1-800-311-2021.
A girl needs accessories. So does a website these days. It's not enough to have just one accessory either. CSC Talk Radio is excited to announce we have an app for that. You can now listen to CSC Talk Radio easily on your smartphones, Android or iPhone. We have an app for that. Share this app-portant news with your friends and family. They can now join in the common sense. Calling all patriots. We have an app for that. Visit csctalkradio.com and download the app. Listen to live streaming or the show's podcast, designed for Triple L. Listening later leisurely. Accessories are necessary. Join CSC Talk Radio on your phone. We've accessorized. Visit csctalkradio.com and download the app. Working with technology to bring America home. We have an app for that. csctalkradio.com. csctalkradio.com.
You stroll out to the barn to check on those calves, kids, or lambs, and at first glance, you know something is not right. A weak kid, a calf who cannot nurse, or a ewe who does not have enough colostrum for her newborn lambs. Your role switches from caretaker to rescuer. In these situations, minutes count. Having the right products on hand is vitally important. Visit the animal care category at HambyDairySupply.com to stock up on your medical needs. At Hamby Dairy Supply, they understand because their family has been raising livestock since 1954. With their years of experience, they can help you with your needs, including planning for those livestock emergencies. Visit HambyDairySupply.com for colostrum, Energy Plus energy supplements, Formula 911, and Arrest Drench products. Stock up today and be prepared. HAMBY DairySupply.com or give them a call at 1-800-306-8937. And we have returned. You're listening to CSC Talk Radio. This is Beth Ann. Well, if you'll remember, it's been a while. I mention it on occasion, and it's been a while since I've mentioned it. The Charlie Reese article of 545 versus the 300 million. You and I are that 300 million, by the way. The 545 are the president and his vice president, his administration, and all of Congress and Supreme Court. With that said, this nation was set up to be governed locally. This nation was set up to not have a large federal government, but a small federal government. Individual sovereignty, local sovereignty, state sovereignty, and a sovereign nation. Well, it has checks and balances with the different branches of government. And right now that's not working. And it's not working because these 545 are not following the Constitution. They're not caring about we the people. Well, Obama's next act of executive overreach, he's about to do it again. He's treating Congress as a nuisance rather than as a co-equal branch of government, which, that's kind of how they're acting. And that has been the hallmark of his presidency. When confronted with congressional opposition to his priorities, Obama simply moves ahead with his agenda, stretching executive authority to its constitutional limits and beyond. And he does this through executive orders, and he's not the first president to do this. But he has taken the most advantage of it, I do believe, as far as some of what he has done with the executive orders. Executive orders are unconstitutional. We're not supposed to be under the edicts of a king. That's what a king would do. Put a stamp, put his ring stamp on something, and that was it. But that's not the way the United States of America is to be run. We, the people, are supposed to be the government. It is a republic, a constitutional republic. But much like Congress isn't doing their job, you and I haven't been doing our job. So we have chaos. We have things out of order. There's rules. When you're having a meeting, there's the Robert's Rules of how it's to be initiated and run in a meeting, certain ways. Well, so is our government, our governing. But it's not happening. Well, a pattern of executive overreach, we have some examples here. When Congress refused to pass the president's amnesty legislation, he moved ahead with it on his own, effectively implementing the DREAM Act. When he decided he didn't like the Defense of the Marriage Act, he unilaterally decreed it unconstitutional and directed his Justice Department to simply stop enforcing it. He's doing things behind the scene through executive order and taking initiatives in other ways that he should not and constitutionally is not allowed to do. More recently, he flat out ignored Congress and struck a deal with the terrorist state of Iran, opting to seek approval from the United Nations rather than from the lawmakers of his own country. I thought that was worded very, very well. Rachel Bovard wrote this article. Congressional criticism of these actions has been rife, but devoid of any real attempt to assert the authority vested in the legislative branch. Congress holds the purse. The purse has the authority to put a stop to certain things. They have the purse, which is your money, my money. And they are making decisions about your money and my money. Your security and my security. The security of our children, the security of our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, our nieces, our nephews. He goes on in this article, or she does, and says, despite all that, the Senate GOP has been noticeably silent in expressing their disapproval. He's getting ready to go to Paris, and that's what they're referring to here. And he's getting ready to make some decisions with a climate change treaty. And yet, we're staying silent about what might happen here. At a recent subcommittee hearing in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, dedicated, so they tell us, dedicated to the topic, a lone GOP senator showed up to ask questions of Todd Stern, the diplomat in charge of the U.S. position in Paris. The other members of the subcommittee were Senator David Perdue, a Republican from Georgia, Jim Risch, a Republican from Idaho, Jeff Flake, a Republican from Arizona, and Cory Gardner, a Republican from Colorado, were nowhere to be found, however. They didn't show up. The Democrats, however, showed up in force, with their side of the dais featuring multiple members asking questions intended to support the administration's attempts to unilaterally commit the United States to an agreement without the consent of Congress. What will this agreement in Paris mean? We don't really know, but we know it's going to cost them. I've got some articles here to go with this, that it's going to cost us a lot. I wonder if they'll talk about that tonight on the business debate. I sincerely doubt it. Congress must be a check on the executive power. That is why they are there. Now, she put it this way. Congressional Republicans need to put their money where their mouths are. I took exception to how she worded that. The founders gave the power of the purse to Congress to provide a check on the whims of the executive. It is not their money. It is your money. They are your senators and representatives. The House is supposed to take care of this. They hold your purse. They should be guarding it. They should be guarding it diligently. But instead, they disrespect you, and they throw it around, or they ignore what's happening around them. Not showing up, and yet the Democrats all showed up, and you've got to give them credit. I'm serious. You've got to get the Democrats credit. They show up. The Republicans who claim to be conservatives that are supposed to be fighting for you and me, they didn't even show up. They didn't show up. There's a difference between talk and action. We hear a lot of them talking, but I don't see them doing anything. They could have defunded Obamacare, and they didn't. They could have stopped the amnesty, and they did not. They could have stopped the Iran deal, but they did not. They gave him that authority. He didn't steal it. They gave it to him. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. Well, wait a minute, say it the way around. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. How many times are we going to have to be shamed, we the American people, into believing that these D.C. occupiers are up there holding our purse and guarding it diligently, holding our liberties and guarding them diligently? When will we realize that they are D.C. occupiers occupying offices and cutting deals to line their own purses, to step up the ladder of their political careers? They're not statesmen. They're not there to represent you and me. They are there to represent themselves, with the exception of just a few who speak out on occasion and vote on occasion to protect you, your purse, your liberties. Well, what about this climate change thing? It's going to cost us. And yet we have nobody show up at the table to represent us as conservatives, as American people, constitutionally. It's crazy, the chaos that's going on around this nation. We're going into a break. What about the companies that are behind this climate change? I want to talk about that a little bit. 877-895-5410 is the number to call. That's 877-895-5410. And we will be right back.
You're listening to Rebooting Liberty Radio Network, compelling and entertaining talk. Don't touch that dial.
And we have returned. You're listening to CSC Talk Radio. This is Beth Ann. Well, we may want to sit and think, well, that's going to happen in Paris, and that's something that doesn't mean anything to us. And speaking of this climate change convention, well, that's my way of putting it. This is going to affect you greatly, as it already has, through the absurdities of the EPA, how they're putting businesses out of business, stifling our natural resources, all for the sake of saving a planet. And like I gave you the revelation yesterday, when Al Gore was born, there were 130,000 glaciers. And now, I don't know how old he is, I think he's older than I am, we only have 130,000 glaciers left. Nothing they have predicted has happened. Not one thing. They're scare tactics they keep using, and we keep buying them half-heartedly or putting up with it. I don't think we buy it. I think we put up with it. Although I have some people that they're not true conservative friends, but they're good people. But they will say, well, there is something. Well, yeah, there's something, but it's not being caused by you and me. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't be good stewards. But what the government is doing and what the EPA is doing is not going to change the weather. It might change the climate where you live. And I'm not talking about temperature climate. Well, this article struck me as kind of interesting. It's titled, The Cozy Relationship Between Big Business and Climate Change Activists. Polls bear it out. When it comes to climate change, the world isn't much interested in taking action. Most folks, that would be you and me, it seems are reluctant to embrace it. It's expensive, life-changing styles, ineffective solutions to a non-evident problem. But some big companies are gung-ho about fighting climate change. Well, at least they've jumped on the Obama administration's climate treaty bandwagon, backing an as-yet unwritten pact to be hammered out next month in Paris. Well, this makes sense, how this reporter wrote this. Big business knows that when the deal's going down, you've got to grab a seat at the table to protect your interests. That's especially true when you know the deal will impose job-killing, growth-stunting regulations. Sitting at the table, you can make sure they're crafted in a way that will damage your competitors, domestic and international, at least as much as they wound you. In other words, are they really on board, or they're just there trying to protect their interests? Market shares matter to big business. And most people aren't interested in absorbing the damage in the name of climate change. You and I are not interested in that. And that holds true for people in the developing worlds as well. The Obama administration constantly claims we'll be hurt most by climate change. The United Nations, and they've got it in quote here, My World, survey asks people around the world to identify the issue that matters most to them. Now, this is true here. More than 8.58 million people responded to the latest survey, and action taken on climate change came in dead last. Both overall and among their countries, ranked lowest on the Human Development Index. In the United States, the level of concern is similar. Earlier this year, A Pew Research poll found the action on climate change ranked 22nd out of 23 on the list of public policy priorities. Only global trade ranked lower. Now that one kind of surprised me, because global trade has to do with a lot of the jobs here in the United States. Well, the American people are not that interested in this, and yet our president is going to go to Paris and back an as of yet unwritten pact, which will be hammered out next month in Paris. What will happen here in the United States? What is he going to give away this time? It's not going to affect his life, is it? It's not going to affect all the millionaires in D.C., is it? It's going to affect you. And it's going to affect me. It's going to affect our farmers, our ranchers, which is our food. It's going to affect all the consumers here in the United States of America. This is serious stuff that we tend to not pay attention to. The EPA, the USDA, the BLM, the IRS, they're all against you. You are now the enemy of the state. Those bureaucratic departments, taking their names from the alphabet, are not our friends. They're not there to protect you. They're there to fine you. They're there to punish you. They're there to make a buck. Where does that money go when they fine you, permit you, license you? Where does that money go? Do you see a pattern? Put it together. It's fairly easy. It's very, very simple. We're being run by a runaway, tyrannical government incorporated instead of our constitutional republic. Congress doesn't take their job any more serious than Hillary Clinton took her job as Secretary of State seriously. If she took it serious, she wouldn't have been so haphazard with her emails. And if there wasn't anything to hide, she'd have turned them over in the first place without being forced to do so. And now she wants to be president. She lies every time she opens her mouth, and we laugh about it and make jokes about it. And now she wants to be president. Scandals are in her path everywhere. And yet she wants to be president. And mainstream media ignores it. They ignore the things she's done, the lying and the deceit that she has done through let's just talk about the one thing, Benghazi, and now they're going after Ben Carson for maybe something that might not have been exactly the way he wrote it in his book. Going after him like a bulldozer, trying to run the man over. I don't care if you like him or you don't like him. Yesterday he said, I'd rather give up being president, not be elected, than lie. He's got some integrity. And he's not backing down, and Trump's not backing down. Ted is not backing down. Carly's hanging in there. And every single one of them are non-established GOP. Ted's in there, and I've seen him do some fighting, but he does some things I don't agree with as well. It's called a constitutional republic, which means we the people are the ones in charge, and we need to take charge. And we need to do it today. 877-895-5410 is the number to call. I have something else I want to share with you. 877-895-5410, and we will be right back.
All you a David? There are wolves, sheep, and sheepdog, and then there are shepherds. Just as young King David faced the impossible battle with the feared giant Goliath, we face giants today as well. Do we run or do we stand our ground? Our federal government is the epitome of corruption. Abuse of power and deceit have enslaved we the people. Property rights are non-existent. Gun owners are treated as terrorists. Citizens are plundered and reaped of rights and liberties. Is there a solution? Yes. You are the solution. You, the patriotic, the local peace officer. You, the elected official, the county sheriff. You must stand with faith, humility, and the strength of a warrior, as young David did. You are the solution. Order the book, Are You a David by Sheriff Mack. Go to csctalkradio.com or send $15 to P.O. Box 73, California, Missouri 65018. Be a shepherd in your community. csctalkradio.com.
Gold and silver have been the foundation of wealth for individuals and nations the world over. The history of man is packed with coins, jewelry, and artifacts that have spoken to the intrinsic value esteemed in gold and silver due to their rarity, durability, and usefulness. I'm proud to call Melody Cedarstrom a friend and honored Discount Gold and Silver Trading is a loyal sponsor of CSC Talk Radio, a Christian company founded on the principles of truth and honesty. Melody provides quality products, quality service, and competitive pricing. Let Melody's over 20 years of experience in gold and silver trading be your investment guide. From precious metals purchases to precious metals IRA. Whether you want to buy or sell, Melody and her team at Discount Gold and Silver will assist you and make sure you get the best deals possible. Call Melody and tell her thank you for sponsoring CSC Talk Radio, and then let her know you want her to be your gold and silver dealer. Visit Melody online at dgscoins.com or just give her a call at 1-800-375-4188. That's 1-800-375-4188. BioAg, working with nature naturally. CSC Talk Radio is excited to welcome Murray Bast with BioAg as a new Common Sense sponsor in natural agriculture. BioAg consultants and distributors are devoted. They understand working with nature. Since 1982, their mission has been to produce and supply products and services that warrant and support true sustainable agriculture. They've done the research. BioAg is a major supplier of natural products and services for livestock and crop production. Visit bio-ag.com and research for yourself. Tell your local farm and home suppliers to become BioAg distributors. From chelate minerals, vitamins, and more, bioag.com has all the products you need. Work with nature naturally to improve your bottom line as well as improve your products and health. Serving all of North America. Visit bio-ag.com or just give them a call at 1-800-363-5278.
It was once said, the pen is mightier than the sword. We're living in a time now that is demanding the Republic to speak up. Grievances need to be put before our elected officials. They need to hear from you. Mainstream media isn't telling the constitutional truth about issues in this nation. There's an agenda afoot that's being used against we the people. Commit now to send at least one of your representatives the pen. There will be no excuse for their lack of knowledge. Pick your state or national representatives and senators or even your governor. It's time to bring common sense back into our governing. Let the Republic be heard. The Pen is a bi-monthly publication for only $24.95. Order yours and order theirs. $24.95 per subscription. CSC Talk Radio. P.O. Box 73, California, Missouri 65018. Order 4 and get the 5th one free. For credit card, visit csctalkradio.com. CSC Talk Radio listeners are reaching out to bring America home.
And we have returned to listening to CSC Talk Radio. This is Beth Ann. As we talked about the executive orders and the overreach of what the president is doing, the current president, he's not the first president to do it. We at least had found a little bit of a solace, with the Supreme Court, and they're upholding the injunction against Obama's immigration plan that he did with his pen in hand. It says here, this is coming from the Newsmax wires, that President Barack Obama's plan to protect from deportation an estimated 5 million illegal immigrants in the United States has suffered another setback in the court. In a 2-1 decision, the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans upheld a Texas-based judge's injunction blocking the Obama administration's immigration initiative that would use a series of executive actions to give them quasi-legal status and work permits. Republicans had criticized the plan as an illegal executive overreach when Obama announced it last November. That's been a year. 26 states challenged the plan in court. The administration argued that the executive branch was within its rights in deciding to defer deportation of selected groups of immigrants. Part of the initiative included expansion of a program called Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, protecting young immigrants from deportation if they were brought to the U.S. illegal as children. Immigrant families and their U.S. citizen children have been waiting anxiously for the Fifth Circuit to rule. Now we call on the DOJ to seek cert before the Supreme Court immediately, where we are most likely to obtain justice for our communities, said Politico. If they want to be here, they need to be citizens. And if you become a citizen, you need to drop the hyphen. You need to stop demanding that we in this country change how we do things to accommodate you coming from another country. Now, not all of the immigrants, not all of them are from Mexico. The majority is, but not all of them. And we'll have Mike Cutler back on soon. I haven't had him on for a while. But it isn't just the illegal immigrants that are the problem here in the United States of America. It's also the legal. One thing that Ted Cruz did that I need to sit down and talk to him. I need to talk to these guys. I want to understand where they're coming from. He was going to increase the legal immigration by 500%. Why? Shouldn't we get things squared away here first? Shouldn't we start taking care of the American people first? That's what he's going on right now. That's one of his big things. He keeps saying, American people come first. Not just with the illegal immigrants, but with the legal immigrants. These refugees that are coming in here are coming in here legally. And it's not going to be good for you and me. Maybe not all of them are terrorists, but I'll bet you a whole bunch in a gob are. It's just not right. And whether you like him or don't like him, or agree with what he says on immigration or not agree with what he says on immigration, Trump is promising to take a firm stand on it. And it was kind of comical when he was on Saturday Night Live, and they were pretending he'd been elected as president, and everything was, wonderful. Everything was just wonderful. And the president of Mexico came in and gave him a check to pay for the wall. But the anti-Trump commercial that just went out a week ago, using small young children with profanity, having to bleep it out, is a disgrace. And it sure doesn't make me think higher of the illegal immigrants that they would use and do such a thing. Be angry if you want to be angry, but don't use the children and use profanity. That's just wrong. I'm a mom. That's just wrong. I'd have washed the mouth out with soap, no matter how old they were. Well, when we bring in all these immigrants, and we keep opening it up, and we keep making them all legal, and we just want to give everybody amnesty, we want to bring the refugees in. Governor Brown, he thinks it's okay if all the immigrants that aren't citizens of the United States vote. What's left for you and me in a nation that is nothing but immigrants. No one takes pride in where they are and who they are anymore. We won't be a nation of a proud American people, and we certainly aren't going to be a nation of one under God anymore. Well, speaking of overreach of the government, here it is. The FDA is upset with how much sugar you're eating, and they want to control your sugar. Again, this is none of their business. It wasn't too long ago they wanted to take your hot dogs away. They are in every aspect of your life, which tells me they haven't got enough to do. Well, it says here, it's official that the Food and Drug Administration is recommending a daily cap on sugar for the first time in the wake of studies linking sweeteners to the nation's biggest killers. Now, let me tell you where I think this is heading. All this health stuff that they recommend, they can't make it a law, can they? They're going to recommend it. Who owns the insurance companies now? Through Obamacare. They're going to tax the fat. They're going to tax your unhealthiness. They already have. That's what they consider Obamacare to be, a tax. But if you don't measure up, literally measure up where they think you should be for your age, your bone structure, whatever, your insurance is going to be higher. It already is. I mean, they already ask questions of health. Once again, we quote George Washington. The marvel of all history is the patience with which men and women will submit to the government. How much more are you willing to submit to burdens laid upon you by the government? I'm done being patient. I hope you are too. It's time that we lost a little bit of that patience, threw it out the door, so we can actually bring America home.
You're listening to Rebooting Liberty Radio Network, compelling and entertaining talk. Don't touch that dial.
Thank you, Senator Coons. And I'd like to go back briefly to Mr. Mayor. In your written testimony, you said that the science behind climate change and its effect on minority communities, quote, should not be up for debate. I'm curious, is the Sierra Club, is this a frequent practice to declare areas of science not up for debate, not up for consideration of what the evidence and data show?
If you are relying on the evidence and data, the science, the preponderance of the evidence are there.
But that's a different thing than saying we should not debate a question, that the Sierra Club has declared this scientific issue resolved and there should be no debate.
Based upon the preponderance of the evidence, the science is settled. But the thing is that anything is up for debate, Senator. We can debate anything.
Well, I would note that even the phrase preponderance of the evidence, having been a practicing lawyer for many years, means 51%. That means at least 51% is what the preponderance means. I would ask, for example, if you want to end debate, you don't want to address the facts, how do you address the fact that in the last 18 years the satellite data show no demonstrable warming whatsoever?
Sir, I would rely upon the Union of Concerned Scientists, and I would rely upon the evidence, and again, from our own NOAA officials. The data are there.
Is it correct that the satellite data over the last 18 years demonstrate no significant warming?
No.
How is it incorrect?
Based upon our experts, it's been refuted long ago, and it's not up for scientific debate.
I'm curious if I want to understand this. I do find it highly interesting that the president of the Sierra Club, when asked what the satellite data demonstrate about warming, apparently is relying on staff. So
It's just a mistake.
the nice thing about the satellite data is these are objective numbers.
Correct.
And the numbers over the last 18 years, are you familiar with the phrase the pause?
The answer is yes, and essentially we rest on our position.
And to what you said you are familiar with the pause, so to what does the phrase the pause refer? I'm sorry, you said you were familiar with that term, so I asked to what does it refer?
Essentially, it's the slowing in global warming during the 40s, sir.
During the 40s. Is it not the term that global warming alarmists have used to explain the inconvenient truth, to use a phrase popularized by former Vice President Al Gore, that the satellite data over the last 18 years demonstrate no significant warming whatsoever? Global warming alarmists call that the pause because the computer models say there should be dramatic warming, and yet the actual satellites taking the measurement don't show any significant warming.
But, Senator, 97% of the scientists concur and agree that there is global warming and anthropogenic impact with regards to global warming.
The problem with that statistic that gets cited a lot is it's based on one bogus study. And indeed, your response, I would point that your response is quite striking. I asked about the science and the evidence, the actual data. We have satellites. They're measuring temperature. That should be relevant. And your answer was, pay no attention to your lying eyes and the numbers that the satellites show. Instead, listen to the scientists who are receiving massive grants who tell us, do not debate the science.
Sir, this is one of the national pastimes in America, and while we're debating what 97% of scientists have already settled, the 3% that we, as I say, have invested in with regards to the carbon industry, our planet is cooking and heating up and warming. So this is one of the reasons why.
So hold on a second. It is the Sierra Club's position that right now the Earth is cooking up and heating and warming. Is that the Sierra Club's? I mean, I just want to quote you and understand.
I am saying I concur with 97% of the world's scientists with regards to global warming and the anthropogenic effects of mankind with regards to climate.
But sir, would you answer the question? Is it the Sierra Club's position, as you just testified, that the Earth is cooking up and heating and warming right now? Is that the Sierra Club's position?
Global temperatures are on the rise, sir.
And I assume the Sierra Club would issue a public retraction if confronted with the facts that the data are precisely as I described, that over the last 18 years, there has been no significant warming, and indeed, that is why global warming alarmists invented the term the pause to explain what they call the pause in global warming, because the data demonstrate what you just said, that the Earth is cooking and warming is not backed up by the data.
We are concurring with 97% of the scientists that absolutely say the opposite, sir.
So if the data are contrary to your testimony, would the Sierra Club issue a retraction?
Sir, we concur with the 97% scientific consensus with regards to global warming.
I'd like to repeat, certainly in a moment, but I'd like to repeat the question and get an answer. If the data are contrary to your testimony, would the Sierra Club issue a retraction?
We concur with 97% of the scientists that believe that the anthropogenic impacts of mankind with regards to global warming are true.
So does that mean you're not willing to answer the question?
We can concur with the preponderance of the evidence and the science at 97%. You're asking me if we take the 3% over the 97%?
No, I'm actually not asking about a survey among scientists. I'm asking about the objective data, the numbers.
The scientists rely upon their objective data and their analysis, and 97% have concurred and conclude that global warming is indeed a fact.
You know, Mr. Meyer, I find it striking that for a public policy organization that purports to focus exclusively on environmental issues, that you're not willing to tell this committee that you would issue a retraction if your testimony is objectively false under scientific data. That undermines the credibility of any organization if you will persist in a political position regardless of what the science shows, regardless of the facts, regardless of the evidence, and regardless of the data. That is not consistent, I would suggest, with sound public policy.
Sir, you can pick whatever, choose and cherry pick whatever data you wish, but I concur with the 97% of scientists who concur that global warming is a fact.
Senator Coons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just simply wanted to observe that we have a broadly representative and qualified group of folks who were brought here to talk about overregulation and its impact on minority communities. And I don't speak for the Sierra Club, obviously, but it is my hope and expectation that if you want to pursue that line of inquiry with them further, they'd be happy to. But my assumption is that we will continue to focus on the subject of the hearing at hand.
And I certainly concur with Senator Coons, and I would note that Mr. Mayer's written testimony and oral testimony focused in significant part on the Obama administration's new global warming regulations that could cost up to 10 million jobs, impose massive costs on American consumers. And so he argued that the data support causing millions of Americans to lose their jobs, including millions of African Americans and Hispanics. And I was pressing on what the data was that he was testifying about. And I would note that is not only relevant to his testimony, it was almost the entire subject of his testimony. And yet, apparently, the testimony is not based on the data or the evidence, or he is not prepared to discuss the data or evidence beyond asserting that we should take the word to take their word for it. With that, I want to thank all the witnesses for being here. Thank you for joining us. We will be keeping the hearing record open for an additional 5 business days, which means the record will be closed at the end of the business day on Tuesday, October 13th, 2015. Thank you very much to each of the witnesses. The hearing is adjourned.
Thank you.